like to welcome Dan Ferguson, our Manager of Producer Relations for Beef Farmers of Ontario, to act as our moderator for the panel today. Dan has been actively involved this summer in working to put together information and videos to help spread awareness and the benefits of calf clubs in Ontario. With this background, I'm happy he was able to join us today in moderating this panel for us. And without further ado, I will let you take it away, Dan, in welcoming our panelists for today.
I would like to thank the Symposium Committee for inviting us here today and featuring this calf club. And I'd like to thank Ron Stevenson for helping me get the sound better. Since we're following the great presentation from Dr. Jessica Gordon on the vaccination protocol, it does seem fitting that we look at the real life benefits here of our calf clubs and these well-vaccinated calves and how they work for our feedlot sector. So we do have 4 panelists today, John Mielhausen, Ron Stevenson, Scott Kuhl, and Jack Chaffe, that we're all on the advertisement for today. But we're going to feature them in a video. So this past summer, we did hire Robert McKinley for 4 months. He's a 4th-year University of Guelph student and real good farm background. He was on staff and he did the lion's share of this work in the field to help with the scripts and help with the setting and help facilitate the videographer to do this video. So we're going to play a video now. We have 4 that we created, and this is one of them, and this is the one that focuses on your protocols for getting those calves to the sales. So it's considered the seller's video. So if James can cue that up, it's about a 5-minute video, and then we'll move over to our panel after. Thanks.
John Mielhausen, president of the Bruce Peninsula Charolais Calf Club. It started with a group of farmers on the Bruce Peninsula with Charolais calves and more or less all breeds calves the first year. We met at a watering hole and had lunch and a few drinks, and we come up with a plan to have a pre-soared calf club. That's been the onset of it, and every year it's been very successful. It's one of the most successful stories in Ontario beef, as far as I'm concerned. Give us a call. There's no membership for this club or any club. It's a day when you can market all your calves in one spot, pretty much. To become a member, you just have to call one of the presidents, Metzger Vet or Katy Livestock. We'll likely come out and take a look at your cows and your bulls and make a quick assessment of that. Yeah, there is a few little loops, but nothing that anybody can't overcome, that's for sure.
Grace Kuhl.
And I'm Scott Kuhl, and I'm a part owner at Katy Livestock Market.
We were sitting in the ring at the sale barn that my great-grandpa started. May 3rd of 1950 was when the first sale was held here. He felt that farmers weren't getting fair prices for their cattle, so we started the sale as a way to combat that.
We market between 30 and 40,000 cattle per year here through the sale barn. What we'll see through that week is around 1,000 calves for both the Georgian Bay and the Bruce Peninsula sale. The Angus sale has been 700 to 900 head, and then the Central Club sale is between 300 to 600 head. Historically, the prices that we've seen for these pre-sorted sales and the special sales is probably 5 to 7 cents a pound higher than other sales. And basically, the premiums paid for the vaccinations, the vaccine protocol that the producers prepare their calves for those sales, and then the pre-sort in itself. A buyer can come in, he can see before the sale that there's a package of 25 calves, and that's their weight. He can see that presented before him, and that's part of the premium that he'll pay. That's what we feel.
My name is Wanda Snowblend. So I've been involved for about 15 years. The clubs that started before, it was a pretty elite group of producers that got it started. And it looked like a good way to market the calves, more profitable than taking them to a sale on my own. So it was good to get invited to be a part of it. So I chose to market my calves this way because In the seed stock industry, I'm only selling about half my calves in the fall. So this way we take them to a pre-sort sale. My 550 weight steer calf get mixed in with 30 other 550 weight steer calves, and you get the top price for those calves.
Yep, so Ron Stevenson, I'm the business manager with Metzger Vet Services. Obviously, I'm very lucky to be with Metzger Vet and the cow-calf clubs on the management side, but actually, also run some cows. I'm actually a member in the Peninsula Club. In our clubs, what we see on death loss, what we see for, way those calves start on feed, most are bunk adjusted because they're on some creep feed. They know what a water bowl is. We're getting a good return, and the calf producer, it's tough. The cow-calf business is tough to make a margin, and this sure helps add some profitability to the cow-calf sector.
Yeah, so the benefit of a pre-sort sale with lots of producers with smaller numbers of cattle, being able to put them together into larger groups or the size of groups that buyers want to bring in based on their pen size or their order buy. Once we can put those together, then the buyer can get as close to a one ranch sale as possible. These cattle are all from the same area. They're grouped together with the same vaccination protocol. And so we're getting as close as we can to these low stress, low risk type cattle coming into the feed yard.
If a producer's interested, all they have to do is they can either phone Katy Livestock, and we can explain to them the protocols, what they have to do, or they can talk to any of the club members, and they'll make sure that the proper information gets out to those people. It's very easy to get involved, and other than doing the work, it's pretty simple, really.
We got sound still, James?
Yes, I do. You can
Good.
walk away now.
Yep. Okay, good. I hope everybody liked the videos. I did get a lot of chats about my little challenges. One came from a guy said I should use a bigger hammer, and I'm not sure what that means with respect to technology, but I'm sure you all understand some of the challenges. The video is really good. Our panelists compromise a fair percentage of those in the video, but we also had Wanda Snobleton there. She did a really good testimonial out in the middle of those nice Charolais cattle on her farm. And you noticed Dr. Van Mitchell getting a cameo appearance in there too, in the clinic, talking about the vet involvement in the program and the benefits of those calves. And of course, Grace had to be there to support her dad, Scott. So real good video. They're short, they're quick, they're to the point, and they do address what it is that these videos are trying to do to increase market share and some profit margins for our cow-calf sector and high quality calves going into our feedlots. There are, like I said, a couple other videos in there. There's the one from the buying side of the program, and then there's two little short kind of under 1 minute media clips just to draw people's attention to the process, and then they can watch the larger, longer ones later. So check those other videos out after we're done today. We hope they're a good tool for increasing the calves in these programs, plus developing other protocols in other areas that'll support calf sales that are going. So we did feature the Katy Calfarama sale group here because it's in one kind of central area to facilitate the video work and the visits to the farms and that kind of stuff. That was kind of the key deal. And they're the Cadillac calf sale in Ontario, setting the gold standard for most of these other clubs that follow. But we do have other really good sale groups across the province that are doing a great job organizing sales. And we're glad to support the Katy group and the other groups as well. But for the video today and the questions that come in, we'll kind of focus on this good Katy group that's done a great job here, okay? Our first panelist coming up is the self-professed founding father of the group. I see John trying to connect there, but he's like me, he's got a little bit of an issue maybe with the sound. And seeing that we've got another keener that is already connected, we might move over to Ron Stevenson while I can see that John is connecting there. So Ron, maybe we'll start.
I think John is connected, Dan. Sorry.
Oh, do you have sound, John?
I can hear you anyways.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can hear you, John.
Good.
I can hear you too, John. So if you want to lead off, he's one of our main cow-calf producers that started the program. John?
And what do you want to hear, right off the back, Dan? The history?
Yeah, give us a bit of a backdrop on how you set them up, a bit more than what we heard in the video, and then, you know, how you keep the producers on the program and the numbers kind of thing.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thanks, Dan, and thanks for the Symposium having us on here with our calf club, and very good presentations by Jessica there. Maybe should give that to the general public of Canada right now, that whole presentation. But yeah, 20 years ago, probably right now, we started this calf club. As I said, we met in a small place and had lunch and everything else. Dr. Peter Kotzeff, we've got to give a lot of credit to Dr. Peter on this. He was the headhunter in all of this to get it going. He brought a Dr. Peter Paul Christensen from BC to our meeting that day. There was approximately 15 members there that day. Everybody was keen to get this going. We'd all been on a killed vaccine. Nobody was really happy. Everybody was marketing calves, different spots. So after our meeting, we decided let's make a roll of this. We approached Katy Livestock. Peter, of course, was already on board with his vet clinic and had all the protocols that we were probably working up to. Absolutely no fluke to this situation. We started out, and every year we kept adding a little bit more to it, a little bit more, a little bit more. And it turned out to be a very good, a big success. After about 3 years, we started out with one calf sale. It was called the Bruce Peninsula sale. There was all breeds in it. The following year, or the year after that, we started in with a black calf club. Then probably in 2007, I think we jumped, maybe before that, into the Georgian Bay Charolais calf club. Then we went to the Central calf club. We started off, as I said, with a killed vaccine. Then we stepped up to a live vaccine in the calves. But the next year, the black club, they stepped into complete herd vaccination and blew the doors off everything we've been doing in the last 3 years previous to that, or 2 years. So yeah, it's a huge success story, and we owe a lot to Peter Kotzeff and a pile of our past members. As far as the members, like I said, we had 15. We kind of had a selection crew who we picked. We were known to turn the odd one away, but since then, a lot of our members have picked up their game, and it's been really good. So the average weight of the calves has increased, and all the history. We follow these calves all back into the feedlot or into the background program to see how they're doing. So yeah, it's a very good story. So that's about all I can say right now. So yeah, thanks, Dan.
All right, John. Well, yeah, the background and the evolution of it is really a good story, and the fact that other areas have followed suit and tried to up their game to compete with that strong sale in October is a great story, and a nice catalyst, I guess you could say, for our industry to up the quality of calves that we've got for our feedlot sector. So I'll maybe move it over to Ron Stevenson, who also consigns cattle to the sale, but he also knows the protocol, and maybe Ron, you could speak kind of priority to that.
Sure, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I've wore a few different hats, I guess, through the years here with the Katy calf clubs. I started with Pfizer, as John mentioned. That started with that group, talking with Dr. Paul Christensen. He was the attending vet out at BC on the Gang Ranch, Nicola, and Douglas Lake. So he had a lot of information on doing pre-vaccinated calves. Dr. Rob Bell was involved at the time. And so, yeah, I was there with Pfizer, and then transitioned to the vet clinic later on. And also, also have some cows and consign too. And John has always been my cow guy, and he still works with me in the summer. He's not much for calving, but he looks after the summer pastures. So John's still heavily involved with my family and our operations. So we can't say enough thanks to John, because he's still is our president at the Peninsula Group, and works hard. But so at the vet clinic, obviously, the role we play now, Dr. Van Mitchell, Dr. Peter Kotzeff is retired. Dr. Van Mitchell is taking over as the attending vet. Van looks after the science, the the protocols and that. And I think our biggest attribute we do for the clubs is track all the data. We do surveys on buyer satisfaction, and so we know the pull rate on the clubs. We're right around 55,000 calves that has went through the Katy program. Overall the pull rate is 2.95% first pull. If we treat again, that's running about 1.1%, but they respond. As like Jessica said, if everything's done right, they respond better, and the antimicrobial resistance issues and all those drug things we talk about go away too. Our death loss is under 1% of that of those groups, and our chronic cattle are about 0.4%. So really goes to show you, with good management with these clubs, good vaccine protocols, we got some tremendous numbers to put up there, along with what really makes sense to our members is the money too, because they are, it's hard to say a premium in today's world, but we do believe that we are seeing that. OMAF did some work years ago on all sales across Canada versus the Katy sale. And, it was easy to see that at that time, John, I'm trying to think, there was like $180 spread on some of those steer calves from across Canada to what Scott was doing for us. So, the main objective of this club right off the bat was preparing a calf for the feedlot. The feedlot operators are our customers, and that's the main thing. So if we can prepare a health prepared calf, goes on feed easy, doesn't turn sick, that's where the money's made for them too, and they're well paying us back. The only other thing we kind of put our money where our mouth is a little bit. We make sure that the RFID tags are in place, they're age verified. If there is horns or bulls or stags, we have a guarantee program that we pay for them as producers. If Jack bought one of my calves and finds that there is a horn, he looks after the RFID tag. That goes back in kind of a confidentiality agreement to the producer that had the horn, and the producer pays $10 for horns and $50 if there's things hanging on the back end there. So it's been really, really successful. Katy does a tremendous job putting the calves together, packaging them, sorting them. I can't say enough about Scott and his team, and the presidents take an active role, like John, that all four of those clubs are working well. There's the Georgian Bay Club. It's predominantly Charolais. Bruce Peninsula, predominantly Charolais. Blue Water Black speaks for itself, black-hided calves. And then the Central Club, their owner lots, they do the same protocol that's established by the attending veterinarian, but they sell in owner lots.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. That was a good overview of the differences between each of the clubs there, and the evolution of the protocols for them, and the extra work that has to go into this sale to draw the attention of the feedlot and the bids. So appreciate that. Next on our panel would be Scott Kuhl, who we've seen in the video there that was being supported by Grace. And Scott's facility does an excellent job at bringing these cattle in and organizing them and putting these groups together. There are extra things that the sale has to do here to facilitate it. And if we could have Scott come up on the screen and go through what the responsibilities are of that auction to manage this sale, and if it's worth it for them, and that type of an angle for our panel. Is Scott available here?
Can everyone hear me?
Yep, hear you good, Scott.
Good. Thanks, Dan and the BFO, for inviting me here to speak on the panel today. We've been working with these calf clubs now for about 23 years, and it's been really nice working with these producers in all four of the clubs. They're all progressive people, and they take great pride in the product that they are producing. They're always open to new ideas, and they're not afraid to try anything new and to make it better and easier. And these clubs actually act as a support group for the members. They often call other members for advice or share different innovative ideas that they can use in their own operation. As far as managing and organizing a pre-soared sale, there's a little bit more time spent as far as scheduling the calves in because each producer is given a time slot to deliver the calves because we can only sort and weigh between 150 and 175 calves per hour. So sorting day is a little bit more intensive because they're weighed and graded and chased back to assigned pens. So we have between 18 to 20 people working the day before the sale. But come sale time, because the calves are all sorted with other similar weights and conformation, the groups are larger, and that makes for less sales. So the sale is usually over between an hour and a half to 2 hours. So if the sale starts at 9 o'clock, our staff is usually home by 2 o'clock, and the calves are home mid-afternoon to their new homes, and that makes for a happier staff and a healthier calf for the buyer because there's less stress, less time at the sale barn. On sale day, each seller is given a list of the weights and the pens that their calves are in. And we also put producer numbers on every calf, and that's just to help us identify if there's ever a mix-up. We also have RFID scanners that capture the RFID numbers and the weights of the calves that are weighed and graded. Our computer then keeps track of whose calves belong to who in each pen and their weights. Then comes sale time, the producers, the RFID tag numbers, the weights of the calves and the buyer are all linked together. So there's a complete trace back record within our computer. Those numbers are stored, so if there's ever a problem with a calf later on, the buyer just calls us and says, for example, I maybe have a horn or improper castration on a steer. He gives us the RFID tag number of that calf, and we can do a search, come up with the seller, the weight of that calf, the buyer of that calf, and the date that it came went through our ring. We give that back to Ron at Metzger's, and then he gets back to the producer and makes sure that the buyer's compensated for a missed horn or a improper castration. I think as far as numbers for these sales, I think the biggest sale that we've had was around 1,300 head. We could do a sale of 1,500, but because we only sort between 150 and 175 per hour, it would make for a long day before for a crew, but it could be done. So there is extra management work and cost for a sale like this because they're more labor intensive. But we feel that we're a little bit more for the cow-calf producer, and the buyer is buying a healthier calf in a nice uniform group. I think reflects on our business in a very positive way. We hear a lot of comments from buyers after the sales about how good the calves looked and how the calves they bought have started on the feed for them. And it's nice to hear those positive comments. We do hear the odd negative comment, and it's usually that some of the calves are a little too fleshy. So it's a very important thing for a producer to watch if he's going to introduce creep feed to his calves, to make sure that he doesn't feed them for too long or too much. There's a kind of a fine line there that it's nice to get that calf used to creep feed, that the calf makes a nice easy transition from its mother into its new home. And probably the biggest compliment that I see it would be the following year when we see some of these calves coming back through our sales ring as yearlings, and to see the genetics and the quality of them, and then see them sell right up with the bigger strings of Western origin cattle. To me, that's a real feather in the cap of the Ontario cow-calf producer. The improvement in our Ontario calves over the last 25 years, I believe, started with a good vaccine program. And our producers got paid a little bit of a premium for those good vaccines that they vaccinated their calves with. And it produced a healthier calf for the buyer. And then in turn, the producer spent a little bit more money in sire selection, bought better genetic bulls, And now I can see that our producers are paying more attention to the female side of the industry, and we're getting better cows around us all the time. In Ontario, maybe our herd size isn't as big as the cow herds in Western Canada, but by pre-sorting our calf sales from herds on the same vaccine protocol, I think we're producing a good, healthy calf that can compete with the strings of calves off the biggest ranches from the West. And that's about all that I have to say for now. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Scott. There's a lot of information there. Appreciate the insight into what has to happen at the auction. Too many people just go and watch and think a miracle happens and calves come running into a ring. And obviously you do a lot of work ahead of time to get this all lined up so nicely. So appreciate the dedication and working with the committee on it there, Scott. So our final speaker on our panel today is the driver of the program. The feedlot sector are the ones that drive the bids for these calves, and we thought we'd be amiss if we didn't have a good representation from our feedlot sector. And today we have Jack Chaffe. He'll cover the benefits of those calf club calves that enter his feedlot and how they stack up. And we're looking forward to Jack's perspective. Jack, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, for anybody listening in, if they don't know who I am, president, co-owner of Chaffe Farms Limited here just north of Mitchell, family-run operation in 5th generation, marketing all our cattle through the Ontario Corn-Fed Beef Quality Assurance Program. We also work with a few other producers throughout Ontario here, backgrounding calves for us, getting them ready for our feedlot for the finishing stage. It was nice for Scott to touch on when he sees those cattle coming back through his ring as yearlings, because that's kind of where I come in. Our feedlot basically brings in a lot of 9-weight cattle for the finishing phase. The more we know about those cattle, the better it is, and we feel confident when we're purchasing those cattle. As cattle coming out of those calf club sales, we know the protocol behind them and our confidence in those cattle when we purchase them as yearlings. So I always find the healthier you keep those calves after weaning, definitely performance on them in the finishing phase is going to be far superior to calves that didn't have a good startup after weaning. And I think that's one of the main things on these calves coming out of these calf club sales is they've been all vaccinated properly, and after that, the startup on them on the feeding program, they go right ahead, and that just shows the performance all the way down the line to the finishing end. Every once in a while you get asked, can these clubs have benefits or right across Ontario in other areas? And my thought is the clubs are great, and you can do the pre-sort sales, or I think the one sale there at Scott's is owner lot. And one of the huge benefits I think on these clubs, and I talked to Ron about this yesterday, was the producers getting together, sharing ideas, sharing management techniques, and there's a whole advantage on doing that together with other producers, and sometimes that comes down to making you as much money as the sale day of those calves. So definitely, I think these clubs could take part right across Ontario in different scenarios, whether they sell all their calves together under pre-sort or whether they sell them in owner lots. The other thing I want to expand on is these calf clubs may be taking the next step, or some of the producers throughout Ontario here like to retain ownership of their calves in the fall. They wean them and then they start them on a a backgrounding ration and then sell them through the winter. And that's another place where I could see these calf clubs coming into play, because there's a whole new set of management tools and ideas that go along with that end of the industry. So do I see opportunities for those kind of clubs? Certainly, because those type of cattle, guys, wean them at home, get them started on feed them through those winter months, and then they want to sell them into that grass market in the spring, which if you can get a lot of those same type of cattle with genetics and vaccine programs, it makes it a lot easier for producers to put those cattle together to go onto a pasture program. And then the other one, the last one I'll touch on here for now was do these calves compete against the Western calves? In my eyes, you look at the price that they've been bringing over the history of these sales, and most of the time those calf club sales are the highest priced calves in Canada, if not North America on a whole. So with that, on that gauge, for sure, the calves are well sold. And I think even with these calf clubs, it's pushed even producers that aren't within the calf clubs to come up with better management techniques, better vaccine programs, and that in turn has improved the whole beef industry here in Ontario. There's a lot of times here in the last couple years anyways, where the Ontario feeder cattle are outselling the Western cattle day in and day out. And even though the finishing end, we're working on a negative basis some days to the Western boys, it just surprises me how well these cattle have sold. And I attribute a lot of this back to these calf club sales, setting the bar on those genetics, on the vaccine programs, and then other producers, even though they're not within the calf clubs, they follow in and see what these other producers are doing. And it's just made it good for the whole beef industry here in Ontario. So I think at that, I'll just leave it and turn it back to you, Dan.
All right, well, thanks, Jack. That perspective is important. It's the driver, and next to you, it's the packer, of course, but moving these cattle through with the least amount of treatments and pulls is a big deal in many respects, including the antimicrobial side of things. So, and it is neat that you end up buying the backgrounded calves, not always necessarily directly at the sale, but that second moved lot that you seek out and go for. So that's great, Jack. We do have a bunch of questions coming in, and I am able to see them in the Q&A box. One of them that came in a little further down, but I'll just jump to it right quickly to get it out of the way. Maybe directed at Ron. It's to do with the pharmaceuticals. And the question is, what is the cost of the protocols for the sale? Like the amounts of vaccine that are required to go in to the cow herd and the calf to get it ready for that sale? What would you put that figure at, even though I know it varies a bit? Ron?
Oh, no, we'll estimate it, Dan. Like, obviously we're going to get our cow looked after. So let's think, just a broad spectrum time. Let's get her a vaccine, her modified live vaccine to get her set up properly. Obviously some black leg, maybe vitamin E, selenium, some poron. Let's estimate that cow at $20, right? To get every year, she's worth $20 just to get your vaccine into her. We're going to do those calves twice. They get their Bovi-5 in the spring, their Covexin Plus, vitamin E, selenium, and some poron. In the fall, they have to do the combo vaccine for the feedlots for shipping fever pneumonia, Covexin again. So let's say the calf, we can probably do that calf for say $15 to $20 too. So, let's go on the high end, and say we got $35, $40 invested in vaccines. In the 18 years that we've watched the numbers, the lowest return we've had over, like Jack said, all the other sales, we've made $100 more per calf than all those other sales that sold that week.
we've had a high of 187. Now I'm using numbers off a 550 weight steer calf, right? There's, you know, we'd have to dig into the numbers more. There's a lot of information to go on this calf club. We could probably do part 2 next year on this, because there's a lot of, you know, a lot of people have a lot of questions, and you know, like Jack mentioned about the management stuff, like we do work together as producers, like you know, even on our creep feed, we have a Bruce Peninsula creep feed that you know, we a bunch of us put our tonnage in. We feel that we can pre-book feed, so there's savings like that too. So there's a lot of those offside conversations that go on, not just with the protocol and the prices on that stuff too, Dan.
Yeah, for sure, Ron. And when the watchers here today, the audience that we have, when they go in and look at the video, there are graphs superimposed up on the video at different times. Scott has a comment when he is interviewed in the video talking about that 5 to 7 cent per pound range, which could be, you could break that down into your cost of all the protocols. And then you go to another graph that's in there that talks about what you just mentioned, Ron, that range of the extra premium coming back to the cow-calf sector of between the 100 and 187. So the payback is definitely there for the investment in the vaccines and the protocols, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess, Dan, I should have mentioned, so the vaccine price is one thing. The realization why we all do it together the same is, Scott and John mentioned this, when we started, we want to emulate a 1-iron ranch calf. Like our competition is those big pre-sort sales in Western Canada have 1,000 head. Well, we want to do the same here. And it just looks like, you know, we as a group of producers are actually one producer, right? We have the same kind of cow, like whatever club you're in, you have the same kind of cows. They're using good bulls from reputable breeders here in Ontario and their breed associations. And we're doing everything kind of together, managing and vaccinating together. So really at the end, when Scott gets those calves, they look like a 1-iron ranch calf, hopefully easy to sort at Scott's place. And then to answer Jack, when he gets them further out, the quality's there, uniformity's there, and they feed like, yeah, they're feeding like our competition, which is a big group of Western calves.
Okay, before we move away from this, there was a question here from one of the people in the chat, in the question box, and it says, does the express modified live vaccine and pyramid pre-response qualify for the protocols for the Katy pre-sort calf sale?
So as of now, you know, we stick to one brand of vaccines, and just like I had mentioned, it's to manage and emulate that we're all doing the same thing. So the health of those calves and the performance of those calves all look the same. Have we changed protocols and vaccines and brands over the year? Absolutely. We went to Vaccination Plus there a couple years ago. We needed a tetanus, so that, you know, that was a change from the original protocol. Can it be looked at? Absolutely. Those are conversations that will be had with the attending veterinarian and the presidents, right? Because they're going to try to hold their performance to a high level because they have a reputation sale.
Yeah, and on that point, while I got you, Ron, then we'll move to somebody else to take you off the hot plate. But there was a question about creep feed, and you did mention about the ration that you can kind of collectively have together up in that area. And do you see a difference in those calves from when you have a balanced ration that they're put onto for their pre-weaning versus a farmer kind of using his own program?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Keep me tap dancing on the hot plate. Don't worry, I'll return the favor sometime. Yeah, no, I think Scott's right. Our biggest situation is to make sure that those calves look good. They're muscled up. They don't get greasy. That's not what our order buyers want to see, right? They want to see calves that are going to perform, and they don't want little butter balls. So I think a prepared ration like we do with the Peninsula Creek feed, it's balanced well with a nutritionist, and it adds the pounds, but keeps, you know, you're using the frame, you're using the muscle, but you're keeping them, you know, lean and ready to go.
Great. Okay, take a break, Ron. Scott, this one's kind of directed at you in the sale facility, and it's to do with this new traceability and some of the features with linking calves to backgrounders to feedlots. And the question is there a data link up with the BIXA system at this point for information sharing, or is that up to the producer and the feedlot to coordinate? Scott?
As far as I know, well, there's not a link up as far as the Katy Livestock goes with BIX. I think it's possible. I have heard our software people in Edmonton talk about the BIX program, but I would, if that's something that the producer and the buyer would really want, I'm sure we could entertain the idea of getting linked up with that for sure.
Yeah, because I know some of the problem that was identified during the opening of the set aside was the method to get tags read, and comments were made about sales generating tag numbers off of lots of cattle, and that might help some of them that don't have the technology to do it. So I think there's other ways there that could benefit the producer side, Scott, but it is an investment at your end for sure.
There is producers.
There's another question here about the implant structure. Jack, I guess maybe focused on you. And the question is there an implant requirement in the calf clubs? And as a feedlot operator, Jack, can you comment on, do you want to see those calves implanted, or do you prefer to do that at the feedlot side?
Well, at the feedlot side, majority of the cattle that we buy, we try to buy them that they've never been implanted. But I think it's going back to Ron and the protocols, if they're using the same vaccines and stuff, if those calf producers are all using the same implant, if they decide to implant their calves, they all need to be doing the same thing, so they all end up looking the same. Because what happens, what I see in some of these backgrounded cattle is there's different producers using different implants, and they're putting them in at different times as they buy the cattle. And then when they go to sell them, you end up buying a group of cattle that some have been implanted for 45 days, some have been implanted for 60 days, some for 90 days, some have ran out. And then we go to put an implant in, and it just, especially on the heifer end, we'll get riding because there's an overlap of some of the implants. So our preference is to buy the cattle with no implants, and we'll pay a premium for it. It doesn't matter whether Ontario cattle or Western cattle, we'll pay the premium for the cattle with no implants.
Okay, thanks, Jack. John, there's a question here regarding spring sales in the calf clubs, and it's from one of our fall calving producers. And is there any thought on a spring sale for producers that have fall born calves, John?
Yeah, it has been considered, but in our area, we don't have enough facilities for our cow-calf guys to keep their calves over the winter. And that is pretty much the deciding factor why we don't have that going on. So yeah, it's a little bit tougher come springtime to make cattle all look the same going into a group. Everybody's got a complete different management than on grass with their mothers. So no, I don't think it's considered in our area, in our calf club anyways.
Okay, thanks, John. There's a question here too. I just had it, and it was directed towards Jack. And it's, is there any way to look in the future about moving this program into a vertically integrated program to see if a feedlot operators can also get a premium for the product they're producing as well, such as, verified beef, corn fed, that kind of a vertically integrated deal? Jack, that question I think is directed at you.
Yeah, so I can touch on that. That's a good question because just with everything that's happened here in Ontario in the last 6 months, we have the Cargill Guelph plant that is CRSB certified now. We've got the Ontario Corn Fed Quality Assurance Program that has been CRSB qualified. We've got the VBP Plus program that's delivered national now. I would say that's going to be the next step in adding value to these calves. But I think at the feedlot end of it and our marketing strategies, we need to get figured out what all that's going to look like. But in the future, I think this will be another thing that the clubs will need to look at to add value all the way through.
Yeah, and another question here from a producer. If you're interested in potentially, just when I go to read it, it jumps around. if you're interested in potentially selling calves in the pre-sort sale this year, when should a producer contact your group, and how much lead time do you need to properly prep those calves for the sale? Ron, maybe?
Sure, the sooner the better. Just, obviously the cow's where she's at and what stage of her trimester and calving times now. So, predominantly, we're gonna have to work with the calf here now, right? So we have to take those 2 shots, spring and pre-sale shots. We have to have them done for sure. We can work with the producer on where the status of the cow vaccines were. We'd like to calve that cow out, obviously, and get her vaccinated and enrolled after calving. But we can work with the producers on the calf vaccine now, so they could roll into the October sale. But the sooner we have, the better. The presidents used to, or still do require, they'd like to do a site visit and make sure that the calves, the quality and everything kind of match up, as John has alluded to before.
Yeah, and on that point, maybe it's a good question here for John. Has a common genetic base, as in specs, for the calf club sires been discussed, not just black hide or white hide calves? Like, how deep do you go into that, John?
We've tried the genetic thing, asked producers about buying the same genetics pretty much to source their bulls at the same place, but never is a good response from that. In the Charolais calf, the exotic calves, we don't really have too big an issue with them growing apart and stuff as much as some of the British breeds who maybe grow apart a little bit more with calving ease bulls and stuff like that. So yeah, it's I don't think it's about as good as we're going to get it right now, I think.
The only thing we've ever done different too is, Scott can probably, is that's why we have the central group. Like, if there's a producer that really believes that they have great quality, they have a different breed than maybe what we're doing with the Char or the black group, that's why they put them in the owner lots on that last sale in the Calfarama week.
There's another question here just about the membership fee for the club. Ron, could you maybe speak to that?
Really no membership fee. There's really a $3. I guess there is. The only thing is there's a $3 head fee taken off at the sale at Katy. That goes back to pre-COVID. We ran about 3 or 4 meetings a year and would get together, have an AGM. That helped with some costs there. Lots of mail outs with protocols and doing the statistics and the data that kind of helped gather all that information. Yeah, so really, yeah, $3 would be the best answer to that. But there's no big buy-in, Dan.
Okay, and I have noticed, I've been to your club annual meetings up there, and it is a nice, as was mentioned earlier here, it's a nice social environment, and it does foster good communication between everybody about what is working and isn't. And I think that's a key thing. A lot of our other areas that are developing calf clubs could learn from that, to move just away from meeting only at sale day to meeting at some time earlier in the year to kind of get everything lined up. So I've seen that, and it really looks good as a model for other areas to follow. There was a question, Scott, about what all you provide to the seller on the invoice. Like, do you actually print out tag numbers, like do CCIA capture, and is it printed, or is it just saved in the yard?
No, that's something I forgot to mention, that the day of the sale, the seller is given a sheet of where their calves are in the sale, how many they've got in each pen, their weights, and the RFID tag numbers. So if they had a calf that was weighed individually, it would link the RFID tag number with the weight. So if they had a management system where they knew the RFID tag number of the calf, that calf that belonged to that cow, then they can have a history on the performance of that cow over her lifetime, as long as her calves come through our sale.
Great, Scott, thanks. That's a good tool these days. Seems to be more and more need for it with all the things that are coming through. There's another question here, hot seat, Ron, if you're ready. It is to do with, does the farmer do his own vaccination or does the vet come to administer the vaccine? And a second part of that question is, how do you police the program?
Yeah, no, we're big on the honor system. Obviously, the presidents do a pretty good job of making sure that the members that are allowed into the clubs are, you know, straight up bona fide producers that are going to do the job. The vet protocol is with the attending veterinarian, and no, most of the cow-calf producers administer their own. There's times that, you know, they use processing crews or neighbors get together and help each other, but by all means, that's generally done by the producers themselves. I see there's a question here by Jamie O'Shea wondering if there's a secret handshake. He'll never understand what the producer's secret handshake is at the peninsula. Like, yeah, they're pretty tight up there.
Just to make a comment there about the veterinarian, the vaccine protocol. Metzger Vet is our consulting veterinarian company or business, but you don't have to have a relationship with them as your everyday veterinarian to be in this club. So just to clarify that, that's just it's maybe seems that way, but we are very close to Van Mitchell, which does a perfect job and keeps us well consulted on anything we need to know.
All right, well, we are kind of seeing the Grim Reaper come in there. Dr. Katy Wood is stepping up to the plate. So I guess it's close to noon. We better wrap, and appreciate, just as the moderator, I appreciate the work you four have put into this. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I've been instructed to run a tight ship here, so I may not be the Grim Reaper, but I'm following their instructions. Anyways, thanks so much. That was a really great panel, and I know we had lots of discussion and lots of great questions. So thanks, Dan, for moderating, and thank you again to our panel, Ron, John, Scott, and Jack. Really appreciate you joining us for the symposium today.